I wanted to start this off right. So, I am going to be speaking about. I'm going to try and do this at least once a week, where I bring up a esports piece of news, and I just kind of discuss it with you guys. So this week, I wanted to talk about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero because Bandai-Namco has announced earlier this week that they are going to be holding a world tournament, which is super cool and super interesting. But I wanted to talk about this because with Dragon Ball Sparking Zero still being so new on the market, it's really interesting for Bandai Namco to be making this announcement. Since it only released this past October, I know a lot of people are probably looking at Bandai Namco and being like, you're kind of jumping the gun here, maybe we shouldn't put that kind of pressure onto the game so early after release. But the game's been holding between 7 and 10,000 daily users on average over the last 30 days. So I think that they're probably in a safe spot to be announcing a tournament right now, especially because of Bandai Namco's history with fighting games and just the tournaments that they've already hosted over time. So I don't think that this is necessarily a jumping the gun. I think this is them kind of doing what they know and kind of approaching it that same direction. So, they've worked on things with Soul Calibur, they've worked on things with Street Fighter. They've done a lot of fighting game work, and they've hosted a lot of fighting games tournaments. So I think that this just makes sense for them because, well, number one, the amount of experience that they have, but also they're, from the game industry perspective, they're a well-established publisher. So they're going to be able to make the best decision for their tournament based on the success of their games in the past and of their approaches in the past. Overall, I think that Bandai Namco probably understands the risks, and they've made this decision because the pros outweigh the risks. The potential for success is probably far outweighing. I don't have the exact numbers because I don't work there, and those are, it's information that's not privy to me because I do not actively work for that company. I want to talk about it as well because they're also trying something a little bit different with this tournament. So, first and foremost, they're hosting an open registration online qualifier for each of their largest regions as far as player base goes. So, that is providing a lot of opportunity just overall globally that may not be as open regionally as other games might have previously used, because we all know that a lot of times there will be, when it's just an open qualifier and it's not a region-specific open qualifier, and this goes for any game really, there are almost always regions that have a larger number of players entering and getting qualified than in other regions. So for Bandai Namco to be hosting these qualifiers for the largest regions is massive as far as making it accessible to a variety of different people and different players and different skill bases. Outside of that, with those qualifiers to select 9 people to go on to grand finals, they're also hosting a single-day qualifier for on-site tournament pools to get 7 more players to grand finals. So in total, that brings it to 16 players that will qualify for the LAN grand finals. But that's not the only thing that's cool about this tournament, okay? So the next thing about this tournament is that each of those 16 players that qualify, so 1 from each region, will be represented by a character from the game, and so they'll have to play the corresponding character in that grand finals. They don't have to play it the entire time because they will be able to add a second character of their choice from the pool of 40 characters to their team. However, they do have to start with the selected character for their region, which I think is really cool. I think it's very interesting to do that. It puts everybody on kind of the same playing field at first because, everybody's kind of set with one character and then they can go into their next character. But I think it's going to be really interesting. I think that it kind of increases the competitive integrity of how this tournament will go and how the flow will kind of stay, if that makes sense. It is going to be a single elimination bracket, which is something that we've seen pretty often, pretty frequently in the fighting game community as far as tournaments go, and they will be competing in a best of 3 to decide, which is super interesting. I'm very excited, and it will be hosted at the Dragon Ball Games Battle Hour 2025. I mean, they already had it together beforehand before announcing this tournament, so it only makes sense cost-wise to kind of combine the two and have the tournament hosted at that, since that does take out the alternative, which is you would have to create a budget, create a plan to push a full tournament to a different land setting. So already having a land setting and hosting it there makes more sense from a business standpoint. Yeah, I mean, that's really all I wanted to say about it. I think ultimately it's a very smart business decision for Bandai Namco for hosting this tournament so soon after, because it does also make sure that you're still in a point where the popularity of the game is still spiked so heavily. I'm sure it won't die down super quickly, but the positives in this case far outweigh the negatives as far as hosting a tournament this early after release because of how well your game has done. So yeah, I mean, that's really it. So now figure out bop 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 ba-da-da-da. Let's see, trying to figure out if I want to do Valorant pod today or Smite, really. Have they them day night with what the hell, get a life, brother. That's crazy. Let's see. I think I'll probably go with Valorant today. I am gonna get ran down in Valorant. 96% sure, by the way. Just in case anybody was curious. I am not the best at the game by any means. So we will see how that goes. Ultimately, I'm just excited to be here and play the game because I haven't been playing Valorant on stream much recently. So we will see how it goes.